Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Talk Sports Show. Tonight's show, I will be previewing the Ohio State Notre Dame football game and also giving you some fantasy football advice for Sunday. First order of business that I need to talk about is that I have started a fantasy football league for all my YouTube subscribers. It is easy to join. The link to the Fantasy Football League is in the description below of this video. Join it up, and once it's full, we will draft. Again, that is for all my YouTube subscribers. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, I would highly recommend subscribing because, as you see, I'm starting up a fantasy football league for all my subscribers. And then when baseball season starts next year, there will be a fantasy baseball league for all my subscribers as well. So fantasy football league for all my subscribers. And also next February, there will be a fantasy baseball league for all my lovely subscribers. Again, the link to join that fantasy football league is in the description of this video. Now on to the video. Like I said, I'm previewing the Ohio State Notre Dame game. And I think this is going to be a really good game tomorrow night. And just to let everybody know, I, along with my co-host of the Robbie and Alex show, Robbie Colleton, my brother that I met in college, we will be producing play-by-play for the Ohio State Notre Dame game. We have rosters, so we will be calling the game on my YouTube tomorrow night starting at 7:30. The game will be on in the background, but you probably won't be able to hear it. It will be muted. But on to the next slide. Here are my keys. My 4 keys for the Ohio State Notre Dame game. Key matchup number 1 is the Notre Dame DBs versus Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. And the reason I say that is if you've watched, other than the Indiana game, the Youngstown State and Western Kentucky game, I know those defenses aren't that good, but they had trouble guarding Marvin Harrison. I mean, not saying Notre Dame won't, but let's see who they line up. What DB? Basically, what I'm saying is let's see how they cover Marvin Harrison. If they're going to cover him single coverage or if they're going to have bracket with a safety over the top every play. Because if they don't, I think Marv's going to have a big. He's going to feast. If Notre Dame can't cover him, I think Marvin Harrison goes for 6 catches, over 90 yards, and at least 1 touchdown. If they do bracket cover him, I think he still has a decent day. Goes 5 for 80 and a touchdown. Key matchup number 2 for the Ohio State Notre Dame game. And there's going to be people that disagree with me on this. But in all fairness, I'm going to say it is the Ohio State offensive line against the defensive line of Notre Dame. And the reason I say that is because the Ohio State offensive line, other than Matthew Jones, is all new guys. But they're gaining experience from playing every game they play. And Notre Dame's got some good defensive linemen. And I think if Ohio State can't block them, it's going to be a long day for Ohio State. Key matchup number 3 for the Ohio State Notre Dame game is Ohio State DB Denzel Burke versus Notre Dame wide receiver Deion Colzie. From the film I've watched of Notre Dame, their number 1 wide receiver seems to be Deion Colzie. Notre Dame fans, if I'm wrong, could you please correct me? Is Deion Colzie your number 1 wide receiver? Because if he is, he's probably going to be shadow covered by Denzel Burke the whole game. And Denzel Burke doesn't give up that many receptions. So I am predicting that Deion Colzie has maybe 3 catches for 30 yards, maybe a touchdown. And last but not least, key matchup number 4, and this is the most important one, is the head coaches, Ryan Day of Ohio State and Marcus Freeman of Notre Dame. The reason I say this is I know Ohio State and Notre Dame played last year, but if you look back, before Marcus Freeman left Ohio State to go to Cincinnati, he was on the same staff as Luke Fickell, Ryan Day. Urban Meyer was the head coach. So Marcus Freeman knows the ins and outs, and they played Ohio State a couple times when he was at Cincinnati. So he kind of knows the ins and outs of Ohio State's offense to a certain degree because they, like I said, they played Ohio State last year. So he took bits and pieces of the game last year probably and showed it in film and showed the guys what they got to do better to beat Ohio State. If they can, if Freeman can do that, I think there's a good chance that Notre Dame beats Ohio State. But like I said, I think this is going to be a really good game tomorrow night and probably the best game of the weekend. My score prediction for the Ohio State Notre Dame game, as seen on the bottom of the screen, I think Ohio State's going to end up winning 48-38 with Kyle McCord throwing for 4 touchdowns and over 200 yards passing. And Marvin Harrison gets 1 of the touchdowns. Cade Stover gets a touchdown reception. Emeka Ibuka gets a touchdown reception. And Mayan Williams gets a touchdown reception. And I think to start the game, it's a feeling out process. I think it's going to be a defensive stalemate through the first quarter and a half of the game. And then in the second quarter, midway through the second quarter, I think Ohio State ends up scores a couple touchdowns. And then that's when you start seeing the over-under come into play. And if you're betting on the Ohio State Notre Dame game, I would drill the over because I think I think Ohio State and Notre Dame are easily going to hit the over in this game. I think there's going to be Ohio State's defense has looked good the first 3 weeks, but I would take the over in this game. Because, like I said, I think it's going to be very high scoring, and there's going to be a lot of big plays. Next topic I'm going to talk about is USF, and I'm going to preview their game this weekend tomorrow at 4 o'clock against Rice. If you didn't watch my review of their game, of my thoughts on their game against Alabama last weekend, I would recommend going back and watching that because I had some very positive, nothing but positive feedback for USF. I not only picked them to win this game, but I also, if you watched my college football picks yesterday, I picked USF to upset Rice. And I think they could upset Rice for two reasons. One, I like the way the offense is going with Byron Brown and all these young receivers that they have, like Naheem Simmons, Joffrey Brown, running backs Kelly Joyner, Michael Dukes. Hold up, I'm grabbing the Kawan Powell, Sean Atkins at wide receiver, Naheem Simmons, Weston Wolf. And the other reason I think USF could pull the upset is because of they are very they don't commit a lot of penalties compared to old USF teams. Like last week against Bama, they only committed 5 penalties. If you look back at games in 2022, they had games where they commit 10 penalties, 11 penalties, 12 penalties for well over 90 yards and not cost them games. And this week's a big game, and so is next week when they play Navy. And I think USF can win these next 2 games. And then they got a tough one after that at UAB. And then they come home and play Connecticut before their bye week. I think if USF goes, I had them only losing 2 games this year. So there's a chance they could go 3-0 in the next 3 weeks. But the thing with Navy is I watched them against Memphis. That triple option is no joke at all. And hold up, guys. I'm adding a segment to the show. Okay, so back to USF. I I apologize. I was adding a segment to the show that you will see after I'm done talking about USF. I think they can go 3-0 in this stretch of games because UAB I'm not really impressed with. Navy, although they're 2-1, although they've won a game this year, I don't think they're going to win that many more games under their new head coach, Brian Newberry. And in UConn, it's University of Connecticut. That could be a toss-up. That could be a win or a loss. But here is my stat line prediction for Byron Brown tomorrow against Rice. I think he throws for, I'm going to give you a nice round number, 290 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 85 yards rushing, and another touchdown. So altogether, that is 4 touchdowns. And you may see him in my players to watch in a little bit after I'm done talking about USF. Like I said at the beginning of the season when I did the power rankings for every conference before the season, USF, I loved the hire of Alex Golish, and I still do. I like the direction they're going in. They're going up, while a team like Navy is going the opposite way and going down. But take into account, Navy's not really known for football. You send your kids to the Naval Academy to learn how to become a good kid and send them into the military after they're done with their 4 years of college. But, and I think USF still has a good chance of winning the conference. But the problem is if they win the American Athletic Conference regular season championship in the conference title game, they'll have to play probably Tulane. And Tulane scares me because they've been winning without their quarterback, Michael Pratt. And I'm worried that in USF, they get to the conference championship game. Michael Pratt's going to be back by that time. And Tulane just steamrolls them. And that's their 3rd loss of the year. And that's a good season. That's a successful season in my book for USF. And I'm going to say a couple more things, and then I'm going to move on to the next segment because I don't want to keep y'all waiting to see the players to watch for week 4, and it's some fantasy football advice. What I'm going to say is the reason USF played Alabama, it wasn't only for the big check they got. I think it's to draw eyes because they have a new stadium coming. And they want to see if they can steal some recruits from other schools in either Florida, Alabama, Texas. If you get what I'm saying. And now here are my players to watch in week 4 of college football. My number 1 player to watch this week in college football is USF quarterback Byron Brown. Like I talked about when I was talking about USF, this kid's only a freshman. He started 2 games at the end of last season when Gary Bohannon and Kertravis Marsh were both hurt. I think this kid's got potential to be special for USF. Very special. Just give him time. Give him time. Give him good receivers. And put him in an offense where he can make plays. That is why he is one of my players to watch this week in college football. My number 2 player to watch this week in college football is Notre Dame quarterback Sam Hartman. And yes, I have his counterpart that's on the other team, as you can see on my hat. He is the next guy on the list. But Sam Hartman, he's been ripping it up this year for Notre Dame. 11 touchdowns so far in the season. No interceptions. This kid, if they beat Ohio State, and even if they beat Ohio State, for sure, he will be on my Heisman list. But if they lose to Ohio State, he will probably still be on my Heisman list, depending on how the guys in front of him, my guys 6, 7, and 8 on my Heisman list do. He's number 9 on my Heisman list right now, but with a win, he can catapult his way up into the top 5. Because I always update my Heisman rankings after every week, and you see them on the show on Mondays, I believe. So, and I got a question for y'all at the end of the stream. And I would like your feedback in the comment section. It'd be much appreciated. And the last guy to watch in week 4 of college football is Ohio State QB Kyle McCord. I think McCord can have a big game this week, and if he does, he all but solidifies, and this is non-biased Ohio State fan talking, he all but solidifies himself as one of the top 3 guys on my Heisman list going into week 5. And with a loss, he's probably going to slide down a few spots, and there will be guys that jump him. But he will find himself on my list if Ohio State wins tomorrow. And just some quick fantasy football advice. If you have Anthony Richardson, find a backup plan. He was ruled out for their game Sunday. I would not go to Gardner Minshew. I would see if there's a better option on your bench or on the waiver wire other than Gardner Minshew. Jamal Williams is out. David Montgomery is doubtful. And that's all the fantasy football advice for tonight. Again, if you want to be in that fantasy football league, the link to the league is in the description below. I highly recommend joining the league because, one, you get to compete with me, and if you beat me, you get to rub it in my face that you beat me because you took advice from me. And 2, the thing I wanted to ask you guys about is in the comments, put in the comment section below, please. It would help me. Do y'all like these shows right now where I talk about college football, NFL, preview big college games on Fridays, and then when I edit the videos, do you like them where if I just leave them with don't split the video up into chapters, just full long form videos, or do y'all like the chapters? The cut videos into segments. Please let me know in the comments. It would help me greatly because it seemed like a couple months ago that y'all really liked when I did these long form videos of my show, but I also cut them up into segments so you could see which segment you wanted. Please leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I will see y'all for the Ohio State Notre Dame game live stream with my co-host from the Robbie and Alex show tomorrow night at 7:30. Thank you. Have a good night.